Channel. Basques is a town at the extreme southwestern tip of Newfoundland, fronting on the western end of the Cabot Strait.A Marine Atlantic ferry terminal is located in the town, which is the primary entry point onto the island of Newfoundland and the western terminus of the Trans-Canada Highway in the province. The town was incorporated in 1945 and its population in the 2011 census was 4,170. Basques is the oldest of the collection of towns that make up the present-day town, which consists of Basques, Channel, Grand Bay, and Mouse Island. Amalgamation took place in the 1970s. History. Channel refers to the narrow channel of water that leads into the local harbour. Basques refers to the harbour that was a favoured sheltering and watering place for Basque whalers who hailed from the Basque region of the Pyrenees of France and Spain during the early 16th century. After leaving the harbour, the whalers either proceeded to the main whaling grounds off southern Labrador, or headed home to the Basque country. They almost certainly took on fresh water from Dead Man's Brook, which flows into Basques harbour, during the stopovers. Basques is first seen on a 1687 Johannes van Guilin map of the area. Permanent settlement came from French fishermen who overwintered on the French shore, using rights given under the 1713 Treaty of Utrecht, which saw France cede its claims in Newfoundland to Great Britain in exchange for right of use of coastal lands for the fishery, with the fishery being the economic mainstay for both French and British settlers in the area. Channel. Basques appeared destined to remain a collection of small fishing villages. Telegraph cable. In 1856, an underwater telegraph cable was successfully laid between Newfoundland and Cape Breton Island, making landfall nearby. This was the first step in the race to complete a transatlantic telegraph cable. A telegraph station was opened in Basques in 1857. Demographics. Transportation. Both the Trans-Canada Highway and the Trans-Canada Trail have the Newfoundland and Labrador start and end points in Basques. Railway. In the 1880s, the Government of Canada erected a lighthouse at nearby Cape Ray which, despite being in the then separate British colony of Newfoundland, was considered a navigation hazard for vessels bound for Canadian ports in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. In 1893, it was decided to extend the western terminus of the Newfoundland Railway from St. George's to Basques Harbour. By 1897 the tracks reached Basques, although the harbour facilities had not been built at the time to handle the steamer Bruce, which had been built in Scotland and had arrived in Newfoundland several months earlier. While the required docks were constructed, the Bruce operated between Little Placentia Sound and North Sydney, Nova Scotia from October 1897 until June 1898. Air service. Basques is served by air via Stephenville International Airport, located 145 kilometers north of the town. Regular domestic air service is provided by Provincial Airlines year-round, while Sunwing provides service to Toronto's Pearson International Airport from May to October, and Air Saint-Pierre offers summer service to the French colonies off Newfoundland's south coast. Ferries. On June 30, 1898, the first passenger train arrived in Basques, and Bruce departed for North Sydney shortly afterward. Over the years, the Newfoundland Railway expanded both the number of trains and vessels which called at Basques. In 1925, the steamer SS Caribou began service. She was attacked and sunk by the German submarine U-69 on 14 October 1942 with a loss of 137 lives, some from the Basques area. There were 20 widows from Caribou sinking in the Basques area. The town of Basques was incorporated in 1945 with Samuel Walters as the first mayor. On 31 March 1949, Newfoundland entered into a confederation and the railway was transferred to Canadian National Railways. Under Term 32 of the Terms of Union between Canada and Newfoundland, the ferry service between North Sydney, Nova Scotia and Basques, Newfoundland was guaranteed, first under the British North America Act and after 1982 under the Constitution of Canada, upon CNR's assumption of the railway and ferry service. The 1950s saw extensive construction at Basques with expansion of new dock facilities and the arrival of newer and larger ships such as the MV William Carson. Extensive blasting of rock created space for large rail yards with extensive dual-gauge trackage. The excess rock was then used as fill to create the required docks. By the mid-1960s, new railcar-capable ferries such as the MV Frederick Carter permitted the exchange of standard-gauge railcars, requiring further expansion at the Basques terminal facilities. The mid-1960s also saw the completion of the Trans-Canada Highway across Newfoundland, an event which eventually led to the closure of the railway by 1988, but which made Basques into an even more important gateway to the island of Newfoundland, given the increased number of tourists visiting the province and the rising amount of truck traffic. New RoPax-capable vessels were commissioned and/or chartered during the 1960s-1980s to meet the growing demand, such as Marine Nautica, Marine Atlantica, Marine Evangeline, Ambrose Shea and John Hamilton Gray. With the abandonment of the railway, extensive rebuilding of Basques terminal resulted in expansive marshalling areas for waiting motor vehicle traffic. A plant disease inspection station operated by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is located on site, as well as a modern rebuilt railway station now used as a passenger terminal for the ferry service operated by Marine Atlantic, which was renamed from CN Marine in 1986. Basques Harbour used to host the arrival of the two largest ice-breaking ferries in Canada at the time, the MV Caribou and MV Joseph and Clara Smallwood, both of which were retired and decommissioned in 2011. In 2009, a larger and more modern vessel, the MV Atlantic Vision, was added to the fleet, with a larger carrying capacity and an equivalent ice class to the MV Caribou. The MV Atlantic Vision was introduced as the new flagship for Marine Atlantic, following the retirement of the MV Caribou and the MV Joseph and Clara Smallwood. Two more new ships were acquired on a 5-year charter from Stena Line. These two new ships, the MV Blue Putties and MV Highlanders, currently round out the Marine Atlantic fleet. Marine Atlantic announced in May of 2015 that it would be purchasing both ships for $100 million each. College of the North Atlantic. The Basques campus of the College of the North Atlantic first opened as the District Vocational School in September 1963. The school was constructed by M.R. Chapel of Nova Scotia because Landrigans Limited of Corner Brook, who was constructing the other district vocational schools in Newfoundland, couldn't move their equipment and supplies over the uncompleted road from Corner Brook to Basques. The Trans-Canada Highway from Corner Brook to Basques was completed in 1965. Climate. Channel Basques experiences a marine-influenced subarctic climate. Sports. Basques placed second in the top 5 communities for Hockeyville 2008, and won $20,000 for its local arena. Its sports arena, Bruce, burned down in 1995, just prior to the hockey season. It was located on top of Army Hill on a road named Stadium Road down in Channel. The new arena, Bruce II Sports Center, was opened on November 23, 1996.